Greetings, everyone. We'll give this another minute to let people trickle in, and then we'll get rolling. Great. We've got 85 people. I think my bet was we'd maybe have 50. So this is already, in the words of Borat Sagadiev, a great success.
Now we get the show on the road.
Yeah. So thanks everybody for coming. I don't know how often we'll do a thing like this, but it felt appropriate to kind of close the year, by giving a little bit more detail about the project and sort of where we are, and also just sort of to to speak to you all directly. I know I speak for everybody on the team that the community response has been absolutely incredible and way beyond our kind of wildest expectations. It's fairly obvious that we're doing something new in DCS with the cargo plane, and whenever you do something new, you sort of it really could go either way. And this is to see over 1,000 people in the Discord, in the first week, and I think we have some 2,000 members now and 100 people here. It really keeps us motivated, because this is a huge project and it's a ton of work, and we're a small team. We think we're moving really quickly, but still, it's an absolutely enormous task. And so to see all the support really makes a difference to us. So I really appreciate it. So we had people submit questions, and I figure that we can just sort of go. I'm just going to go through them, really in no particular order, just sort of the order that they were received in. And then if folks have questions that they want to ask on voice here and now, then we can make time for that at the end. We welcome anybody else to ask anything that they're curious about. So the first question. Go ahead, Magnus.
Do you want me to ask you and you respond?
Sure. Why not?
Just
we can
start at the top.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, so Dr. Powell, will in-game airfields be in the aircraft's database to pull runway data for the departure arrival page, or will all the coordinates have to be hand-jammed manually? Same question for polled entry.
Yes. Hold on a second. I just sent you a link to where we had collated these. So let's actually go with this one first. The question here was, even though it's not in the current scope of the project, can you confirm if it's still an option available based on sales to develop the AC-130 or hardest hawk? We really do want to see that variant. So this question is obviously the question that I think everybody, or at least a lot of people, are probably curious about. The answer is yeah. It's absolutely still a possibility and something that we're considering. The thing about this is that the system development and the additional complexity associated with doing something like an AC or even a harvest hawk is really pretty high, and kind of bigger than anything else really in the game today. It's an airplane that doesn't it really requires like almost a 6-person crew. And it's not the kind of thing where, like in the Slick J, like where, you have a pilot and a co-pilot, but like, it's a simulator. So, you can just sort of fly fast and loose and, make do with one person. In the case of that plane, really, it's different crew stations and totally different responsibilities. And it doesn't mean that it's impossible to do, but it is certainly a challenge, and it would require an enormous amount of investment and time. And so I think our perspective has been basically like, let's just wait and see. The early signs look great. We've got like I said at the outset, a ton of people in the Discord and a lot of really great feedback so far. But at the end of the day, the proof will be in the pudding of sales. That like, if we don't sell any C130s, that probably tells us something about how many AC130s we might sell. I think that it would be a product that a lot of people would be interested in, but it will really be a development challenge and even farther outside of the scope of like a normal DCS development process.
Yeah, indeed, it's certainly an extra development of the base.
Yeah. All right. So will there be a configuration panel radio menu to set up the plane, like to switch between refueling probe and receptacle? Will it be completely different aircraft that must be placed within the mission editor? Yeah, I'm not totally sure that I understand this question. I think that this question is asking. Yeah, I think that this is asking about the distinction between most of the European. I think it's the UK 130s that have that probe thing on top. So short answer is not sure. This is one where I think at some point we might have indicated that we were going to do both. It turns out that's actually a little bit harder than it might have seemed at the time, because you have to define the refueling capabilities of each plane up front, and then that, like in the airplane definition, that gets read by DCS. And so part of the challenge there is really about, how do you tell the game that it's one or the other, but not both at the same time? And I'm not sure that will be tractable. We're going to try, but I'm not sure if we'll be able to do both in a kind of a seamless way. Next one here, we have, it's not a common configuration, but some Air Forces use the KC-130 with a refueling probe. Can we have this variant also? Right, so this is kind of in the same vein. TBD, a lot of the elements, I'm actually kind of going to group a couple of these together here. There's another question that was, can we get more info on the KC-130 and how this will work? And the answer is, we're not sure yet. Player-to-player air refueling is something that does not exist in the game right now. We have confidence that it will. We've spoken to ED about this, and they have indicated a willingness to work with us on this, and we're sure that we're going to be able to deliver a really compelling experience. But I would be lying if I said I knew exactly the mechanics of how this is all gonna fit together. I think I think I wrote an answer in the main Discord about this at some point, but basically there's kind of two flavors of this that it could take. One flavor is that we more or less fit into the current model of air-to-air refueling that the AI planes operate under, and so the plane as it's flown by a player would sort of take on the role of that AI unit, and you could tell people to return pre-contact and whatever. I'm hopeful that we'll be able to sort of shield some of those mechanics from folks so that the return pre-contact and ready pre-contact business is sort of in the background, and you don't need to interact with it quite as prominently as you do now, which I don't think anyone loves. But yeah, I mean, the short answer is that it's really that option, or maybe folks at ED decide that they have the appetite to really to sort of to rework the whole thing from first principles. And I can't really speak to how likely that is. They have their own development priorities, and I think if you ask them, they'd say, yeah, we would love to to sort of redo air refueling, but whether or not that'll fit into our development timeline for release is kind of hard to say. So our main priority is getting to a place where you can deliver fuel to planes and and to make it fun. What specifics of how it's going to work, TBD. The next one here is civil nav aids. We're lacking in every DCS map, VOR, NDBs, waypoints, etc. How will you implement real life nav data? The answer is yes. So the C130J has essentially like a full civil FMS that works pretty similar to, I think actually they actually bought, Lockheed Martin actually, I think, bought this from Boeing. There's a thing in the C-130 called the CNI, and that's what, looks like a civil FMS. It's like it's that box on the center console with a keypad. There's 3 of them. And you can, that's where all of your mission planning will take place. And yeah, absolutely, this plane has the ability to navigate airways, SIDS, stars, all these things. And we wanted to deliver. It was a choice we made pretty early that we knew that was going to be a real challenge. But it was a challenge we wanted to take on because it would be unique to DCS. And so yes, we have a sort of bespoke database of civil nav aids that we've cobbled together from various sources. It's definitely a little bit complicated because the way that the civil nav aid world works is works on cycles, and then also most of those waypoints are relative to runway numbers, which change as magnetic variation changes. Whereas of course in DCS, like, the maps are kind of a snapshot in time. And so there's a lot of work that we had to do to get the sort of the runways and departure procedures and arrival procedures for those to match up to the DCS runway numbers. But we've done that, and we'll see how much we regret it going forward as we get more and more maps that we have to support. But yeah, that's absolutely a part of it. And you'll be able to fly the C-130 like a 737 if that's what you're into. All right, so next one. This is one of my favorite questions. Will ED properly support more than 2 engine aircraft? So,
that's a great one to finally discuss.
So this is not true. There has never been a 2-engine limit. I don't know where this came from. Well, actually, I shouldn't say that. There hasn't been, at least for as long as I have been involved in DCS, which has been, I guess, for maybe 5 years. I think that maybe back in ye olden times, the standard flight model that was shipped in like DCS 1 and those types of things may have had some limitation. But the important thing to understand about DCS and what makes it such a compelling development environment, although also a challenging one, is that DCS actually, there is not a concept of an engine in DCS from the perspective of a flight model. What you do is you implement essentially aerodynamics and physics from first principles, and then you send back to the engine every simulation frame a number of an amount of force in Newton meters per second squared that the airplane is either producing or is acting on it on the basis of the aerodynamics from the control surfaces. And so the way you generate that number, the number of Newton meters force, either forward or backward or up or down, is honestly just between you and God. DCS doesn't care. You can make 1 million engines, and that would make no difference. So there's never So the answer is basically there's not a limit. It's not an issue at all, and we have all the support that we need from the game engine to make a 4-engined plane. So the next one, I know the C130 will be multi-crew ready, but can you get more than 4 people in the plane? Does the ED API support it? So the API, I actually don't know if there is a literal limit. I suspect that there isn't, or if there is a limit, it's very high. The challenge here will be about latency for the most part. The C130 introduces kind of an interesting set of multi-crew synchronization challenges that other planes don't have, or most planes don't have, because all of the controls can be interacted with by either player. So it's not like in maybe like a Hind where you have a control set and I have a control set, but I can't literally click yours. Maybe we have sort of like repeated controls. Maybe like you have a yoke and I have a yoke, but they aren't literally the same one. And so what that means is that we have to synchronize not just the effect of the interactions in the cockpit, but also the visual element of it. And so it makes it harder, and it makes latency a real driver to make it a good experience. And so basically the short answer is we'll do as many people as we can without compromising the experience. If we start adding more and more crew and you want to have 6 Loadmasters, sweet, but if it means that it's a laggy mess for everybody else, then we'll probably have to pull it back. I'm confident that at least 3, probably 4, will be viable, but I don't want to make any promises because it'll really come down to what produces the best gameplay experience. All right, so this next one's a big one. What are some of the features that will be added? Will an entire logistics system be implemented into DCS? So I think that the thrust of this question is basically like, well, actually, let me step back. Like if you were a cynic about this project, you thought it was going to be, a failure, your argument would go something like, what's the point of having a cargo plane in DCS when there isn't really any framework to deliver cargo? You can of course write a bunch of scripting with something like CTLD, but that's not super compelling. You also could go and do something like, you could load up a bunch of JDAMs as if they were weapons and then unload them, but that wouldn't be that fun. And so what are we doing to make it fun? I think it's the thrust of this question. And the answer is we're doing a lot. Well, I should say, we're working a lot with ED on this. They have been great partners with us on this topic. And, the plan, and I'm not going to say exactly what form this is going to take because it's still in flight. But the plan is to have a much more engaging mechanism for cargo handling at minimum. And, for me, what that really means is, the ability to load and unload cargo, not through the rearming menu, for one. And to have some sort of a visual element to it that that makes it more engaging, right? So I mean, I want to be able to see it loading into the back of the plane and so forth. I want to see the mass shift of the plane. I don't want it to be something that's just entirely handled like by some sort of like scripting interface. I think that would be not a compelling experience. And that's really that's the ethos that drives all of our decisions. Is what will be a compelling experience. Flying a real C-130 is an incredibly compelling experience, and for a lot of reasons. And so our objective is to replicate as many of those as possible. So yeah, I mean, I want to be able to see the cargo in the back. I want to be able to release the wheel lock, the rollers, and let it smash into the bulkhead if you nose down. There should be consequences for these things. So I can't say what it's going to be like. I think that I would not expect that there would be a complete remake of the entire warehousing system, but there is absolutely development underway with respect to the way that a plane like a C-130 can interact with cargo and loads, and that also will extend to airdrop. But I think that there's some airdrop questions that are coming up, so I'll leave that for now.
An effective logistics system in DCS would change the gameplay.
Right, I think so. Right, I mean, logistics matter to war, and this is a simulator that is attempted to simulate war. So and so I think I think it should be fairly obvious as to why for many of us this is a hugely compelling element. All right. What's next? Okay, so what will be the uses of the other crewed positions other than pilot and co-pilot? As in, what will the Loadmaster do with a flight engineer or navigator? Will they be required or just fun positions? So there is not a navigator in a slick C-130J. There is something called an AUG crew station, which is basically another seat, and that person can be a pilot for long flights. You can sit there, you get your own CNI, and you can do whatever you like. I think in practice, probably what most people will do is the line between the AUG crew station and the Loadmaster role will kind of blur. We're working on the ability to let the player sort of leave the cockpit and walk into the back if you want. And so hopefully those things will be available. In terms of like what their responsibilities will be, they'll be essentially the responsibilities of the real crew, right? So we'll obviously have scripting or AI based functions to let a bunch of folks that are flying a C-130 without an actual Loadmaster, call back to an AI Loadmaster and say, hey, cut the straps and we're gonna drop this stuff. But if you want to go back there and do that stuff, you should be able to. We're working on making elements back there clickable, even though it's not part of the actual cockpit model itself. And so the answer is, they'll be as in depth as we can make them. I mean, I think you should expect that not necessarily at release for the Loadmaster stuff. I think like we'd like to do a more in-depth simulation of that part of it that involves planning where the stuff is going to be physically placed for from a weight and balance perspective, and certainly that has a bearing on the airdrop timings. And then for the other one, for the other variants, there's a CISO station, which you'd have on an MC. I think for most cases, we're gonna do what we can to make it so that the plane is fully functional, for a single person crew, because that's gonna be the majority of our use cases. But yeah, we're gonna simulate those stations in full fidelity. Next question here is, how will the system work specifically to support the game changer features of the C130, dropping cargo parachute air refueler, right? So we've already talked about air refueling. We've already talked about cargo. Airdrop is obviously, that's like the, at least for me, like I think that's the most compelling part of it. And we already are pretty far into that. We obviously need support from ED. They're doing they're doing work on our behalf to support that. But we want it to have full, as close to a full fidelity ballistic simulation of the ballistic characteristics of a dropped load as we possibly can. And so we've implemented all that into the CNI already for what's called a CARP, which is a computer assisted airdrop, where you enter the elements of the load itself, how much it weighs, where in the cargo bay it is physically, what type of parachute is it, what are the wind and temperature characteristics, and then it will produce it'll produce an estimate of where you need to release it to land inside of basically a rectangle that has a point of impact that you've specified. So we're going to simulate that as deeply as we possibly can. It's still a little bit TBD in terms of how much flexibility we're going to have with respect to different parachutes and things like that, or whether we'll be able to do HARP, which is high altitude release. But I'm very optimistic that we're going to deliver something really great there. It's already pretty compelling, just in the early release, in the early betas that we're testing with our testing group. Next one here is, will the Multicrew system on this C130 load flight engineer, Loadmaster, navigator slot? Yes, I think we've already answered that one. Yes, we'll have those slots. No, there's not a navigator. Will LAPES be a modeled aspect of operations, or will it be in some shorthanded way fly? No, it's not going to just poof spawn motionless on the ground. Now, my understanding is that LAPES is not something that is done much anymore because it's extremely dangerous. But I don't think that there would be anything to stop you from trying, if that is how you'd like to deliver cargo to the ground. And no, specifically, will your cargo just spawn motionless on the ground? No, I don't think that is what we are going to aim for a much more dynamic simulation than that. So next one is, can you talk a little bit about the team working on the project? Did every team member already work on the free mod? So the team is absolutely an outgrowth of the free mod team. Not everyone who is part of the group now was a code contributor, I guess you might say. But I think almost everyone was associated with the project in some way. I mean, from the beginning of all of this, we've been talking about doing a full fidelity plane for a long time, and I got involved. I don't know, a couple of years ago, and I don't know if anybody remembers, but there was this bug where if you had the Steam version of the game, like it just didn't work. Like frame rate was like 8 frames a second, and I had the Steam version of the game at that time, and it was funny. It was Anubis had accidentally shipped a version with debug symbols, and so I hooked up a debugger because I'm a software engineer, and I found the problem. And I said, hey, probably don't want to ship debug symbols, but here's the problem, and like here's how you fix it. And so he did, and then we started talking, and I ended up contributing some more stuff like the RWR and some other things. And then at some point, I think we all kind of sat around and said, what are we really doing here? Like we had a whole bunch of stuff we developed that we had never released that was pretty far out there for, compared to other modding in the DCS community. And it was, I think, at least for me, it felt like, we were putting in almost a full fidelity module worth of effort, but doing it without any of the tools that would be available to us if we did sign the contracts and sort of do the full process to become licensed third party. And so it just sort of became obvious. And it was, I guess, it's been about 2 years probably since I founded the company, and
it's for
and then a couple months after that we hashed through the license stuff with ED, and we were off. So it's a complete rewrite. I mean, I also want to be clear about that. I mean, the project has a connection to the free mod only in that the people are mostly the same. The initial mod, was a hobby project that Albertus, worked on for a long time, and then later got really popular. But but we've approached this very differently as a professional software project. That's my background, and that's what I do. So we've imposed a bunch of processes that I think have contributed to our being able to develop it particularly quickly, despite the sort of unique nature of the module in the DCS community. There's not a lot of great templates or examples or frameworks in the SDK for cargo planes, because there aren't any. And so we've but it's been great. It's been a blast. I think we've done a lot of really good work in a pretty short time, and we're still having fun, which is what matters. Because if we stop having fun, that's that's where it's a bad time, because everybody gets into this as a hobby at first, and then I guess in our case it becomes a bit of a job. But we still love the game and we love flying, and so it's a little bit about how we got here. Relics, I don't know if you want to add anything with that. Or you don't have to.
No, I mean, that's pretty much, you pretty much said everything accurately on just up to par of where we've been. Most of my stuff was never really included in the mod. I just kind of showed up here, so to say. But I'm if anyone was wondering, I'm the lead artist. I'm the guy doing all the textures, the art, the cool stuff. Professional, licensed, went to college, all that fun stuff. This plane, I think, has been, out of all the other projects and games and stuff I've worked on, the hardest thing I've ever done, just because of the scale and the complexity.
It's very hard.
I'm hopeful that everyone's. It's insane. I hope you guys are gonna really, really love it. I've put a lot of work into making sure that the plane is not only down to 3 decimal or 2 decimal point measurement accuracy, but also a really beautiful plane flying VR.
He's not kidding. I've joked that the plane is probably the most accurate non-laser scanned 3D asset in the universe.
But
Relics
we've been at this for about 2 years.
Relics is doing a great job. And yeah, he's not kidding when he says it's a huge undertaking. The plane is just very, very big, physically, and in terms of systems. All right, so next one is, what will the cargo limitations be, such as what vehicles will it be able to shuttle around maps, and will we be able to carry the MOAB, and will we be able to set up FOBs and FARPs? So the things that you'll be able to carry in the plane are things that fit inside the plane, I think, is probably a good way to think about it. There's not going to be any like arbitrary list of, like airplane simulation company approved cargo objects. If it fits, then awesome. And if it does not, then it will not be able to be carried by the plane because it does not fit in the plane. However, a MOAB does fit in the plane. And thus you will be able to carry a MOAB inside the plane because it fits in the plane. And the MOAB, I cannot promise whether that will be like a release day thing, but it is going to be a thing. Absolutely going to be a thing. There's some other things we have to hash through with the MOAB that are, kind of similar to the same questions that I was talking about at the outset regarding the challenges of like the AC and the Harvest Hawk. And it's that, the MOAB is a GPS guided bomb that gets programmed like on the ground, like by a guy probably with like a laptop connecting to it, like physically, right? Like people are not flying around C-130s, like TOOing MOABs, like into juicy targets that they see from the targeting pod in the air. But that is absolutely the way most of us play DCS, and that is absolutely a very fun thing to be doing. So we want, I think we just have to come to some agreements as a team about like, how are we going to do that? We don't want it to be just total chaos, people flying around, just, like I said, TOing them into stuff. But on the other end of it, there's no, a MOAB is fundamentally delivered like any other piece of heavy equipment, airdrop material. From my understanding, they program the airdrop computer as if it was any other airdrop, and it just happens to be the case that it has fins and it's a bomb. So I would imagine that enterprising DCS players may find that if they deliver particularly precise CARP solutions, they may be able to use MOABs. Like a general purpose bomb, but we'll see. Our focus right now is on systems fidelity and system completeness, which in a plane this big is a very large task. And then as we get towards the end, we'll evaluate whether the MOAB makes the cut for release day or not. But it's going to happen. It's definitely going to happen because it's hilarious and absurd, and I want to drop it personally. So there will be a MOAB. All right. The next question is: there's been some talk about C-130 getting a targeting pod like Lightning. Will that come with the release of the original C-130J or another variant early access release? Okay, so MC and KC-130s all have a pod mounted to the nose, and when we do those, there will be a pod because that's what the plane has. I also know that it is not a particularly uncommon thing for SlickJs to receive Lightning pods if you live in a country like Australia. They have mounted Lightning pods to their SlickJs, and I tend to think that targeting pod, especially in DCS, is a very exciting and fun addition, because gives you the ability to work around a lot of the I don't know if you call them like shortcomings, but like I'll give you an example. Right? Like if you're going out and you want to do an airdrop somewhere in the real world, you would have like a guy on the ground and he would like stand there with like survey equipment. He would be like, this hill, is exactly 53 feet, AGL, or something. And that's not going to happen in DCS. There's not. I mean, I guess maybe you could have a friend eject. He could walk to the hill, and then like he could stand there and but that's obviously ridiculous. So I think there's a lot of utility in having a targeting pod on the plane, and my development philosophy on this has kind of been like that. We're not going to put anything on the plane that doesn't actually exist on the plane, but if there's something that exists on the plane in some set of scenarios that make it much better as a customer experience, then we would like to do that. So we need to learn a bit more about how Australian SlickJ's mount, deploy, and control targeting pods, but we would like to have a targeting pod on the plane. And if all of you flood the comments here now and say, you suck, that's not full fidelity, I'll never buy it if you put a targeting pod on it, maybe I'll reconsider. I'll also think that you're not all very, very fun, but I digress. So I guess, yeah, if the community freaks out about it, then we can reconsider. But I think most people would agree that if there are targeting pods on the plane in some configurations, and it would be fun, you could do a lot worse than putting one on. All right, so will the C130 be able to land on standard DCS terrain outside of airports, i.e. does it support off-field landings?
And can you land it on a carrier?
I have landed on a carrier. It requires some skill, but it absolutely can be done. And I suspect it will be done by people. Good luck getting off.
It's tough.
Yeah, it's fairly. It is a stern challenge. All right, so will it land outside of airports though? Look, the answer is yes. I think it's important for people to understand there's only so much of this that we actually control. DCS has a suspension system and a ground interaction model that is befitting of a flight simulator, not a driving simulator. And so I think it's somewhat understandable that the system, maybe, if you have to pick between like doing a great wake turbulence simulation and a great ground, field landing simulation, probably you do the wake turbulence one first. So I'm very sympathetic to the fact that that's the state of the game. But so yeah, you can, you definitely can. It taxis around on the ground. It's not. I know there's some DCS modules where you basically cannot move off of the tarmac. That is not the case here. So it is. It'll be possibly a little bit sketchy depending on where those terrain tile mesh join points are. But yes, you can. You can land in the grass. Will we be able to drop paratroopers is the question. I think so, but I don't know. I know there has been development in the core game for paratroopers, and that has not made it into, I think, some time ago, there were some videos, and ED said, this is coming. It's certainly something that I want, but again, it's a core game feature that, hopefully the C130 can be a force to push that stuff along, but hard to say exactly when. Next one here is for the KC MC130, will we be able to select what type of hose and drogue we want in the rearming menu?
Because, there's two.
So I don't know. It will depend on kind of, the same as the same as what we were saying earlier about the refueling system in general. I tend to think that we'll have the ability to control some of those pieces, but I don't want to make any promises. The next one here is how will we simulate the fuel transfer system and the refueling system? This is so the C130 has I believe the game's premier fuel system simulation. It is a very complicated fuel system involving many tanks and valves and pumps, and we have simulated them in exquisite detail. So you can rest assured that any mechanism that the C-130 has to move fuel around, you'll be able to do. Crossfeed works, all of the auto transfer, auto shut off business works with the, with the appropriate ACAUS. So
pump speeds and everything.
It's all there. Will force feedback be implemented? I think, I don't know if anyone remembers this, but I said that it would be implemented if someone mailed me a Brunner yoke, which is available for the low price of $3,000 US or some such. And I was, of course, I was joking, and something that delighted me was that I found a post on Hoggit the next day that said the person had commented on that. It said, "It's very concerning that the devs can't afford their own equipment," which I just found just that's the best. The best. We are the best community. But I digress. Will force feedback be implemented? I think so. I'll be honest with you. I don't know all too much about what is involved in implementing force feedback in DCS. But that is only because I haven't thought about it, because I'm thinking about implementing 100 other things. I do, however, own a Microsoft Sidewinder force feedback stick that I bought on eBay, and it mostly collects dust behind my desk, but it is something that is in my house. So there's a fighting chance that we get a force feedback implementation, I would say. And we also want to do a really nice sim shaker jet seat implementation as well, which is kind of related. So yeah, probably. What will be the estimated price? This is the question that I believe everyone knows the answer to, but still wants to ask. Look, this is an enormous project, and it is and we are spending a very large amount of time and a very large amount of money delivering what will be about as I don't think that there will ever be a more accurate simulation of a C-130J other than the actual C-130 and whatever Lockheed will sell you for $50 million. I've joked before that if the human race becomes extinct in a million years, aliens come here and they dig up all of our stuff and they become obsessed with C-130Js for some reason and they want to fly them. This will be the one that they fly. This will be the simulator of choice for an alien species that comes here. And so it'll be priced accordingly. It'll be priced in line with other, premium DCS modules. I think that is only fair. It won't be, we're not gonna charge $150, but it's not gonna be $50. And I think that's fair. At the same time, it's also, I think, as I put on my marketing hat, I think a great value for customers, because that will include the MC and the KC variants, and of course the -30, which is the next question. How long after release are you planning on releasing the -30? I don't know. It really will just depend on our development pace. If that is ready to go, then we'll go. But
you basically you want to make one, like the short one first, make the longer one next, because it's easier to just, all you're doing is literally adding a couple of spans into
which is
it.
Incidentally the way that Lockheed makes the actual -30.
Yeah.
They
So
literally stick a plug of
just
aluminum right behind the wing. So the answer is pretty soon. I think we are resourcing the development of the art elements that are required for MCs, KCs, and -30s. In parallel to our release here of the short slip J, but soon. Yeah, I mean, it's not going to be a year. Will damages and failures be implemented? Yes, they are.
Kind of already are. Yeah, say that much.
So yes, we have I think a pretty solid start already on this. This is again one of the kind of differentiators of this plane versus other planes is, if you get shot in a fighter jet, you're probably going to crash. If you get shot in a C-130, you might crash, but it's a huge plane. There's lots of things you can that can receive some rounds from small arms on the ground or something else. And keep trucking. The same is true with the fuel system. And part of what you understand, or what you come to understand, if you're in my position and you're developing the software, is all the ways in which the plane is designed to assume that it might get shot. Maybe a good example of that is the fuel system. So if you want to develop a fuel system that works like the fuel system ought to, you kind of need a damage model, because the fuel system is assuming that the manifold will get shot and some such, and that you might need to use crossfeed or some other way to get fuel to an engine. So we put a lot of that in already, and anyone that is a member of our testing group and has been on the receiving end of a burst of 30 mil cannon from a plane piloted by me. Just know that you're doing the Lord's work testing the damage model. So yes, there will be a lot of damage and failures, and we think that that's a pretty key element to the C130 experience. Will there be any in-game airfield data with SIDS and stars? Kind of already answered. The answer is yeah. There is, and it's a giant pain in the ass to produce, because you have to match runways and ICOs that don't match the real world ones, but that's just what it is. Will it be there for upcoming maps? Definitely. Definitely will be. When landing on unimproved airstrips or terrain, will there be any ground particles blown up for the so-called brownout when the props are in reverse? These are the detailed questions that we are here for. I don't know. If the game supports such a thing, then we will find a way to do it. I think it's important to understand that there's a fairly clear line between the module universe, which is the plane that we're making, and the game universe. The game universe, is where those types of shaders exist, and I cannot as a third party developer, put something into my plane that like renders a graphical effect on your screen outside of the plane, in a multiplayer environment. Something like that. And that makes sense. That's not a DCS thing. That's just a game world thing. So the answer is I don't know if DCS does that. I think there's like helicopter rotors kick up dust. I think so. Yeah, maybe. We'll see.
The rotors do.
Will the aircraft shake on prop start? When going to full power, yes, it will shake. Yes, it will. How are the throttles modeled? Will dual lever HOTAS throttles use 2 engines per lever, or will all 4 spawn to 1 lever? So obviously we're not insane. We're not going to go make everybody go buy like a 4 lever throttle. But if you have one, that's great. Basically what we have keybinds for all throttles, and you could bind that to 1 lever, and then they would all move. Or you could have left and right, or you can have them bound individually. So whatever you want, we have keybinds for all of them. For all combinations of individual engines, left and right, or everything as one giant engine lever. So, so that's how it works. We're still fiddling with like some options for how we handle the different throttle ranges. Anyone that I don't know if any. Oh, I'm sure that there are actual C130 people here, but the plane has a couple of detents that put you into ground range or reverse, and we're still testing out some different approaches there. But yeah, you'll be able to bind them in whatever way you want. Next question is, what will the eject animation look like? Will there be a fire escape ladder in the cockpit? Well, there will definitely be a fire escape ladder in the cockpit. I don't know what the eject animation will look like. That is not something that I have thought a lot about. But that is. This is again one of these things where we're a little bit beholden to the DCS system. I'm not entirely sure what tools we have at our disposal to make that particularly unique. And if we do something crazy with an eject animation, that's definitely something that will happen later in the early access process. But yeah, I mean, it'll either involve going out the escape ladder or jumping out the back of the cargo door. Or the ramp. I don't know. Next question here is, will the warehouse system in DCS be reworked to accommodate a more fleshed out logistics system? I think this is essentially the same as the question that I answered earlier. Yes, there is ongoing development in this space. No, I'm not prepared to specify exactly what form it will take. I would think of it less as a warehouse system change, although maybe it will be, but I would think of it less as a warehouse system change and more of a enabling the creation of a more sort of dynamic logistics, cargo loading and unloading mechanism. So a better way to get stuff in and out of and to interact with the warehouses themselves. Okay, the next question is, which and how many propeller blades will be used on the models? It'll be well. I was going to joke and say it'll be four propeller blades per engine, and they're square. No, that would be an H, and that's not what we're making. So yeah, it's a C130 J, right? So so it has that number of propeller blades. I don't know if there. I mean, are there different? Have J's had different?
Modified. Yeah, there's one that's modified that has 8 blades on it, but that thing just does not look right. And
I've never
it's
seen
only
that. Yeah, I was gonna say I've never even seen that.
Yeah.
I mean, I know they. Yeah, I know they did like what they call it, like a super sport or something like that. Like an even shorter departure. Yeah, maybe it's that. But anyway, no, it's it's going to have the standard number of blades, which is 6. And that's what it is. Will in-game airfields be in the aircraft's database to pull runway data for departure arrival pages, or will the coordinates all have to be hand jammed manually? Same question for total entry. Yes, they are in the database. They are, and so there's kinds of we sort of split it in terms of this navigation data stuff. We have our own custom thing for SIDS and stars and the like, and then we read in the game database at startup and essentially combine the two. So anything that's in the game will be there, and yeah, you'll be able to go and put in an ICO, go to departure arrival page. Yeah, go plug in or select the runway, and then if there are departures and transition points available for that, you'll be able to select them there. The next question is, will there be some kind of ability to import routes, custom data points into the aircraft's computer, like a DTC, so you don't have to hand jam in the route for every mission? Or does DCS simply not have that functionality? So the sorry, 1 second. So we've done something kind of interesting here. We've implemented like a sort of a database system that allows you to store data pertaining to navigation, like between sessions, which is the way that the real plane works. In the real plane, you can store a route, or you can store custom data points, and then if you go have lunch and come back to the plane, they're still there. So we have implemented the same thing. So there is, I don't want to say there's a DTC. We're not doing that necessarily. But if you, for example, fly some multiplayer mission, and part of the mission is to go and capture some airbase, or land there and refuel it, and you map out a mission, you map out a route that you would like to save. You can store and retrieve that route using the CNI natively. So I guess really what I'm saying is the actual plane has a feature like that, and we implemented the actual plane's feature for that. We have not implemented a data card because that we're told that is something that will be available someday natively in the game, and we hope that comes to pass, but cannot say when. The next question is, can you expand more on the functionality extent of the cargo system to be implemented? Will it function in a similar fashion, like in the script, where it is done via the loadout menu, or completely different units from different factions, loadable depending on mission setup, or limited? I cannot expand more on this. No, I intend for it not to be requiring an interaction with the loadout menu, but that is not a promise. But it is likely that you will not have to interact with the loadout menu. Next question here is, what functions will the C130J and C130J's FLIR have, i.e. LSS, LST, IR marker, laser designation for buddy lasing? Will it have CCDTV or only thermals? I'm asking because I can find little info online. It will have the features that the actual plane has. So if the actual plane can do buddy lasing, this one will too. The same will be true with laser search, track, and the like. We're not that far into this part of development yet. So I cannot claim complete knowledge of what features the FLIR and the MC has. I know some about it, but I don't know everything. So I can't say which of these actually exist or not. But if they do, they will be in our version. The next question is, will we be able to drop several types of parachutists, line parachutists and high altitude parachutists, for example? This has just a pretty consequential dependency on ED. They would need to complete their work on parachute models, and we would have sort of whatever it is that they deliver. I don't know that I'd be super optimistic for line. I think it's probably going to be a bunch of guys just sort of bailing out the back. But TBD. If there's anything that we can do to make that more flexible, we'll take them up on that offer. But as of now, that is a core game mechanic that we cannot control. Next question is for Multicrew. Can it be explained a bit in what sense each role can do, and which will be available? How hard would it be to operate a Herc solo? So for like a Slick J, like we're going to release at like in our initial release, you got a pilot and a co-pilot, right? And that's pretty much what you have. And then you have a Loadmaster. You might have an augmented crew if it's a really long flight. You can operate it solo. It's a lot of work, and I certainly think that it's more fun to do it in a multi-crew environment. But I understand that not everybody is going to be interested in multiplayer for whatever reason. I think I think you can. We have it has a pretty extensive autopilot, or at least relative to other DCS modules. It has a very extensive autopilot. It'll fly a route. It'll have something called approach mode, which will essentially fly the airplane into the runway and crash it for you on a specified glide slope. So if you get good, you absolutely can. Whether that would be considered safe operation in a real world context, probably not. But that is why this is a simulator. So we can do unsafe things and not die in real life when they go badly. You can absolutely fly it solo. We are trying to make sure that is viable and fun, because at the end of the day, most people will be flying it by themselves, for sure. Next question here is, when is the planned release date? I'm not telling you. I have a day. Well, I don't know that I have a day. I have like a time when I think we will have a good chance of shipping, and I'm not going to tell anyone when it is. But it's not 2 years away, so you should know that. But I don't see any benefit in talking about that. It's just going to make me look like a dummy if I'm wrong. Next question is, do any of the variants have a weather radar? Yes, they all do. This is a difficult topic because it's impossible actually to do a weather radar right now in DCS because of a bunch of fairly technical like game and computer science concepts related to whether you compute information on the GPU or on the CPU. I think actually I wrote a fairly lengthy explanation about this in one of somewhere in Discord about how that, or actually maybe that wasn't in this Discord, it might have been in our testers Discord, but it was in tester. Yeah, let's. I'm happy to talk more about this in some other context. Yeah, I think I'm told that like the limitations that make this hard or intractable right now are not necessarily going to always be that way. So I'm hopeful that we will have a weather radar at some point, but it's not likely that we'll have one necessarily at release. The next question here is, as a Loadmaster, are we going to be able to walk around the cargo bay or just going from a stationary position? Yes, you can walk around the cargo bay. Yes. Next question. Is there already a plan? What features are planned for early access and what comes after? I mean, kind of, but if I say yes, you're just going to ask me which features are planned for early access and which comes after. And I would not tell you. However, I'm comfortable saying that I think it'll be fairly complete at release for the Slip J. That's what it's looking like. I mean, our view is kind of like we have a cut line of things that we aren't going to ship without, and then it's kind of a race between the art and the system side of the house. And as soon as the art is done, if the systems are below the cut line, then we wait and we complete those systems. And if the systems are above the cut line, then we ship it. It seems like we have, good pace on the systems, good pace in the art. We're probably going to, be close to complete, I think, at release. There will be other things that'll come as we can, like the weather radar is an example. Like if we can do a weather radar, we will. Technically, that's an incomplete feature, but I don't know when that will happen. I know that's an unsatisfying answer, but it is the one that I am going to give you. The next question here is, what were the biggest challenges you had to overcome in development of a completely new type of aircraft in DCS? It's a good question. Yeah, so it's so I don't I think there's a couple of parts to this. One part is, of course, like the cargo specific part. And that's not been horrible, but it's also not been trivial. I mean, I'll give you like some examples. Like the game has a lot of sort of assumptions built into it, and the assumptions are the assumptions are that that the planes will be fighter jets, and embedded in those assumptions are things like that they will have like a canopy, as an example. C130 doesn't have a canopy, right? And so there's like some weird edge cases we still have to sort of work around, or or things like the game will play an audio effect of like wind rushing when it believes that the quote unquote canopy is open, but the canopy in a C130 doesn't really exist. It like if I want to tell the game that the cockpit is not sealed, that could be the crew door, could be the cargo, it could be the ramp, it could be paratrooper doors, it could be all kinds of things. And so the game very much wants to make those assumptions about it, about the module, which makes a ton of sense because there were not cargo planes before. And so some of those things, another one might be the ground interaction system, seems to have a pretty strong assumption that you've got 3 wheels. C130s do not have 3 wheels. They have about 5 wheels, more than 5 tires, but and so that can create some challenges. But I think the hardest part is really just working through all the questions of how will we approach simulating X thing. And a lot of that is transferable to later projects, right? We arrived at a view on how to simulate hydraulics, and a view on how to simulate electrical systems, and a view on how to simulate fuel systems, and those will be transferable to other things that we do, even if we don't necessarily, even if we do another project, it doesn't necessarily have the same complexity, or it's different. Just having the code and the sort of the what you call in software like the primitives in place. I think that's really been the biggest thing for us. And then on the art side, not to speak for Relics, but on the art side, the world of art is dominated by a couple of art engine, or not art engines, of game engines, and they work in very specific ways, and they have documentation, and they're widely used, and you can get plugins that allow you to better understand how your art will render in the simulator or in the game engine that is your target, and DCS doesn't have any of those things, just simply because it is a custom, bespoke game engine, which I think makes sense that we have that. I hear a lot of people saying why don't you just port everything to Unreal Engine 5? And I think if that's something that goes through your head, you should maybe have a little bit more humility for the complexity of a simulation. Of the scale of DCS, but yeah, there's just all kinds of things that just require experience, and we didn't have it at first in spades, and but we're getting faster and better, and I still think we've already made pretty enormous progress in a pretty short period of time. So. The next question here is there any update on the possibility of JPADS? There's not an update on the possibility of JPADS. The next question is, do you plan to ship a campaign with the module or cooperate with a campaign builder to get one out at release? Yeah, we definitely want to have a campaign as close to or at release if possible. I don't know exactly. We've talked to a handful of campaign creators, and I think we were operating the assumption we were going to have one group start working on this, and they've since then kind of pulled back for a variety of non C130 reasons. But so I don't have a solid answer there, but I do recognize the importance of having content, especially single player content, available for it at release, and we will do whatever we can to get that. To get that to happen. If you are a licensed DCS third-party campaign creator and you would like to make a campaign for us, send me a message. The next question here is, did you do some sort of market analysis if there is enough demand for a transport plane like the C130? So no, Not really. We did something different, which was that we made a free mod, and we actually distributed it, and an enormous number of people downloaded it. And so that was some, that was certainly, some pretty important, indicator. I'm supposing that this question is really like, sort of driving at the financial element of it. And I think look, like, you've got to have a lot of reasons to do a project like this. If you're coming at this entirely from an economic perspective, you're going to deliver a garbage plane, and probably make less money than you might have otherwise. Like, I could do a lot of things with my time that maybe would be more or less accretive than this. I don't know, but I'm doing this because, and I think we're all doing this because we love aviation, we love DCS, and we love this particular plane. And so you have to
have the dedication.
Yeah, you have to love it, because it's hard. It's just really hard. I mean, the details that like all of you are going to hold us accountable to are crazy in some cases, to an outsider. And I don't mean that in a negative way. That's what makes DCS great, is that is the level of attention to detail that is required. But I joke with John, who's our sort of project manager and QA person, that sometimes I be like late at night and I'll be going through bug reports that we'll read literally something like this field in the FMS should have 3 dashes, not 2, or please move this word 1 space to the right. And
this font is
yeah,
all kinds of like really minute things.
Yeah, and so you either care about that stuff inherently, and you get excited about the outcome, even though the work might be grueling, or you don't. And we do, and we want to deliver something that is really unique in terms of the fidelity level. I also want to comment on there's something else about this particular project that makes it a little bit unique, I think, relative to other DCS projects, which is that we have access to like a really awesome volume of SMEs, essentially. If you go make like an F-14, that's going to be, there's definitely people that flew F-14s and, that are still alive. But it wasn't that long ago. But the opportunity that we have to talk to folks, and, we can ask a question, the manual can be vague, and to get an answer well, I don't know, I'll go try it tomorrow when I fly and get back to you. That's the other thing that makes this particularly fun. And I think what will make it
makes it fun and hard.
It makes it fun and it makes it hard. But it also will I think lend itself to a particularly accurate simulation. Not that other projects are not unflinchingly accurate, but just the amount of material and expertise that is available to us has really made it fun in all the people that we've been working with. The next question here is the new logistics system being worked on by yourselves, or is it ED? I wouldn't say it's one or the other. They have to build some tools and capabilities into the core game, and then we have to consume those and implement them in our plane in a way that is compelling and fun. Both, but definitely a lot of work on the ED side to support this, which we are very grateful for. The last not the last question. One of the last questions here is: are you going to remake the C130 exterior model or continue from what it is now? I don't really understand this question because I don't know which model is being referred to. If this is a reference to, I could interpret this a few ways. I could interpret it as a question about the original model, from the mod, in which case the answer is the model for the commercial product is unrelated. I also could interpret it as some particularly eagle-eyed viewer has identified that there are some hints of a C130H lineage on that external, and the answer is those will be vanquished by the time we
don't worry about it. It's going to be a J 100% by the time you see it and have access to it.
And then the last one here is ASC focused to model large aircraft in DCS, or is the C130 to test the market and then make a decision? I don't know that I'd say either or. I think certainly the market reaction will have an impact on what we do next. That much is clear. And I want to separate I would like to separate the what is next from the Harvest Hawk AC business. Because those are going to be very directly related to the C130. But I think after this, there's a couple of moving parts. I mean, the first moving parts is which planes are available for us to make, and that's a combination of what's the information that's available, in terms of SMEs, but also just manuals and other data that are required, and then the other side of it is which ones are not spoken for. There's the DCS third party community is growing, and that means there's only so many kind of really iconic planes. I would say I don't think we have any sort of fetish for large aircraft. I think we are also. I would say that we are not intimidated though by large, complicated machines. And so take that however you might. But I think you might not be if you will hopefully not be disappointed if you see us doing other sort of surprising but exciting planes. I mean, I we're not going to go do a KC-10 though. Let's put it that way. We're not going to go do big, like an A400 or something. We're not going to do things like that. We think there's a niche here that's compelling and fun. C130 is also just an incredibly iconic plane that has been in production in some fashion, for 60 years. And so we we'll see. But if we finish this project and want to keep making planes, which I think we will. We have some ideas, and let's just say they're ideas that I think would excite. I think most people on this call. So that is those are all of our questions. I don't know if anybody has additional questions that they would like to ask on voice or anything at all. But thanks everyone for coming. This is an awesome turnout, and I'm very excited to see everybody here and to answer these questions. And we'll maybe we'll do it again at some point.
You want to open the floor?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, does anybody? Yeah, I don't know how this works. Is there some way? Yeah, I mean, is there?
Pretty sure there's a way you can request.
Yeah, I think there's a way.
Show request up in the upper right of your screen. There's over where the inbox thing, it says request.
Yeah, it says your requests. There we are. We have no request to speak, but all people are allowed. So anyway, if you would like to request to speak, you can. If no one does in the next 30 seconds, we'll call it a day.
or if they don't want to
Can-
speak, I guess they could post in the was it the FAQ, or was it just any of the question things, or just anywhere in there, and just ask.
So
I guess
I'm looking here. Yeah, sorry, Mitch and Jake. No, we're not doing a KC-10. We're not. If it's any consolation, it's Relix's dream too, and I regularly crush his dream as well. No way at all.
Yep.
I mean, I shouldn't say never, but probably not.
It's a much more. It would just be such more of a complex and intimidating plane. It's even larger than the C130. So
and it's far less versatile. And well, I'm not gonna hate on the KC-10. All right, here's someone saying to me, I remember people saying that the HCJ, no, we never said the HCJ was a possibility. We said the Harvest Hawk was a possibility, which is a very different airplane. An MC, though, is going to happen, and an MC is essentially the exact same plane as an HC. In fact, they come off of the production line like they're identical planes. No, not an HC. Yes, an MC, and a Lancer. When God, I would love to do a Lancer. I think a B1 is as cool. I think it looks like a freaking spaceship. But that is there's just no data on it, and maybe that'll change, but there's no data. So if anybody wants to supply, if anyone would like to supply actual information. Sorry.
So in Q&A, somebody says, will there be ECM systems incorporated? And why not add the nav data from Navigraph instead of doing it manually?
Well, right. So you can't do it from Navigraph because it doesn't match. Is the problem, right? So the airports, they will have different runway numbers, all these things. That's essentially why we're doing it this way is because of
try to keep it like real world stuff and keep the points and all the stars and all the things in the right name and such.
Someone's mentioning 111. It's an interesting, certainly an interesting idea. All I'll say is our flight model expert was actually the last human being alive who went through training, F-111 training. He flew the F-111, and he was the last person to go through training in the Australian Air Force before they
the last of his class.
Yeah, it's the last person. So I don't know. F-111 certainly be an interesting plane. It's I don't know. Maybe someone else. I definitely don't have a license with Boeing for a C-130J.
Not built by Boeing.
And someone asked, how long have you been working on the C-130J? We have been working for 100 years. 100 years. Sometimes it feels like 100 years. No, we've been at this for less than 2 years. I would say I think we're inside of a year and a half, just barely inside a year and a half. I think we got SDKs and such a year from last May, something like that. So
2021, I want to say.
Yeah.
June, actually, I think around that time.
Yeah. So it's been over a year, not two. I think a little less than a year and a half. So we will congratulate ourselves on our incredible pace. But it's been a lot of work. I mean, this is this is where our time is. Relics and I spent Christmas pushing code and textures.
Yeah.
Let's see. Do I have C130 pictures above my bed? Says someone. No. But only because my wife would not allow. Just kidding. Well, actually, no, I'm not. Well, I don't know whether I'm kidding or not. I don't have C130 pictures above my bed. I don't know whether my wife would allow me to or not. Probably almost no. Definitely she wouldn't. I don't know whether I would want them. Probably not. Actually, I think I probably don't need to be under the eye of a C130 literally and figuratively while I sleep. I don't know that would be good for my mental health. Any other plans for other planes, like a C2 or an EC2? No plans for a C2. Yeah, look, I mean, there's some ECM related questions in here. I think like what's important to understand is like we work inside of the sim and the sim, like the ECM stuff is like particularly complicated from a technical perspective, from a computational perspective, and from a classification and data availability perspective. So I don't know. I like if the plane's got a jammer, we'll put a jammer in, and it will work in much the same way that other jammers in DCS work. I would like to see things like GPS jamming, maybe, if only so that INS enthusiasts can have some reason to complete their daily vigil at the alignment station, and that would be I think compelling. But I'm just making that up. I've had no conversations with anyone at ED about GPS denial, and I don't even know how it works. I just know that it's something that happens. Let's see. Is there any features that is impossible to develop due to the DCS engine? Yes, there are features that are impossible to develop due to the DCS engine. For example, I don't think that you could develop you could not develop an RPG because of the DCS engine. I don't know that DCS supports crafting or spells. Whether those are relevant to our project, the answer is no. There are not any features that I want to make that I cannot make. Well, there used to be, and then I haggled with my friends at DCS headquarters, and we. And now we don't. We've all come to an agreement about how to do the cargo stuff, which is great. Are we still planning to pull off the MC-130? Yes, we are. An OV-10 possible? No. How far along is the cow simulation? This is important. I'll say not far enough along. I am pretty. I need to crack the whip on that. The problem, of course, with cracking the whip on software development is that ultimately I'm just flagellating myself because I'm the one writing most of the code. I do need to. I need to talk to someone at ED about allowing the cows to wander into the cargo bay. And because then we'll be able to see. I mean, I think something pretty important for us here is a full fidelity microwave simulation, and so you could have like a butcher station in the back, maybe. Like you could, it'd be fairly grim, but like you could suspend like the cow and like you could cut a fillet out maybe, and then you would only be able to microwave. No, you'd have to microwave it in the cockpit. But yeah, I think these are all important avenues for development. A pickup truck for the Herc. I mean, if you put a pickup truck in the Herc, then you will have a pickup truck in the Herc. I don't, someone says that someone says AWACS is not classified. That's true. Someone votes for B1. How about
Matt, someone has a question for the SKE system for multiplayer, the ski system, and that would be caps as well.
So caps. Okay, so this is maybe like so I'm just scanning through. Someone's saying something about pet rocks. Someone's saying someone a microwave. Full fidelity microwave, obviously. If you think I'm kidding, I'm not. I'm not going to. Someone says again, why do people think that DCS doesn't support 4 engines? This drives me insane. It's not true. It's not ever. Hasn't been true. Any chance to become a beta tester? Probably not, but I don't know. We have a lot of testers. If you've flown an actual C130, tell me. And but otherwise, let's see. Full fidelity toilet. I don't see why not. Something about a DUI. I don't understand. Oh my God, 4 engines again. Okay, now I see what's happening. This is all a joke at my expense. Well, I have a release date for you. It's 20,000 years from now. How about that? Yes. Will Mitch asks, will the C130 have 20 million engines? I made it. We're joking before we're going to do this. I was going to tell everyone that no, the limitation is real, and so that's why we've implemented a single mega engine. It's a monster engine. Will the MOAB have blast effects? I don't know. It will have the effects of the DCS bombs. I don't know if someone tells me I'm allowed to write like my shader for that. I'll do that. All right. So Relic says someone asked about caps or like caps adjacent things. So the problem with caps is just like you would not or like I guess like caps and like TCAS together I don't think that people are gonna be flying around like F-16s like with transponders on and I think if we're being candid, the average DCS operating environment is hot to quite hot, somewhere in that range. So yeah, I don't know. It's not looking like we're probably going to do caps. We're going to do some form of a data link that will support equivalent functionality. Without caps, the ability to fly formation is non-existent. I disagree. Maybe the agree to you can look out your window. It may be the case that you wouldn't want to do it safely. But 9line is here to say this is not true. Yes, thank you. That has never been true. And why does he get all the thumbs ups? I've been debunking this all afternoon. See, now the thumbs ups are going to accelerate here.
Yep.
Fate worse than death. Oh my God! Here we go. They're really taking off now. It's not true. 9line. Please. The next time someone brings this up, can you like just refer them to me, and then I will spend like an hour with them to just destroy this silly. And here's Jake. Oh my gosh, you guys are killing me. Right. This has been fun. Everyone. Are we looking for volunteers? No, not really. Unless you, no, unfortunately. Yes, I need to keep coding. That is
Somebody,
I
Lucas
mean, we
says,
work on this plane literally every
That's
single
pretty
day
much all we do.
for more than we should probably be working on it for our own sanity's sake. But
I think
every
it's
single day for many
appropriate
hours.
amount. It's a conspiracy. You cannot have 4 engines. You're right. No, you're right. You're right. It's not true, and I wouldn't know.
Lucas says, are the sounds recorded from the real aircraft?
The sounds, yeah, they are. They are. And there will be even more sounds. Will we get rapid drag in? That's a good question. I don't know. Like, this is another one where we need to like find out how stupid it would be to have rapid drag in on a Slick J. The answer is probably pretty stupid, but then the counterpoint is like, if it just gets pushed out the back, like any other airdrop, then like I think. It's the kind of thing that would be neat, but I don't know that we have any of the data, or anybody really has any of the data for it. But who doesn't like missiles dropped out of the back of large, slow-moving planes? I know I am an enthusiast for such things. Medium dragon. There we go. Yeah. So we've got Too Bad the Sky. Coast canceled.
Yeah.
All right.
There we go. Grinelli says up to 20 engines.
Up to 20 engines. Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's fun stuff. Oh yeah. Here's yeah. So this is what I've tried to explain this to people. You actually can go into your DCS install, and in your DCS install, there's a folder called API, and what it gives you there is it gives you the template that Eagle Dynamics distributes to everybody to make an EFM. Right? This is not like a secret. This is like you're intended to find this, and that's how anybody who makes an EFM as a mod, that is the template for starting this, and yeah, it's right there, up to 20 engines, and I just don't. I'll never understand. I'll never understand. Yeah. All right. I would love to do this all day, but I think we
back to the C++.
Yeah,
mods.
probably back to polishing.
Yep, textures.
Whatever other things. Yeah, thank you all for coming. This was fun. You guys are the best. And as soon as we get that 2 engine limit sorted out, we'll be on the road to release. So yep. Just send. Please send all of your feedback to Matt Wagner directly. Please. He'll be helpful. He'll be very delighted to hear it.
Poor Matt.
Yeah. All right. Okay. Thank you everyone again, and we have a great new year, and whatnot, and we'll share more stuff when we feel emboldened. See ya.
Thank you, Matt and Relics. Thank you for the chat, and thank you everyone for coming. Have a nice evening.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.